He's dubbed the football professor, a tactical mastermind and the godfather of gegenpressing, the counter-press.
United will be organized. We should realize that, and that's obviously not good news for other teams.
For years, he's been linked with some of the top jobs in European football. But why? He's never won a league title or a Champions League trophy, and only coached one full season of top-flight football since 2011. So why should Manchester United supporters be optimistic?
He was one of the main figures to convince me to try coaching. So he had a huge influence on all of us at this time.
Over the years, Kickoff has interviewed him many times. From biting into bratwursts to being showered by beer, I'll take you through his career to date. Who is Ralf Rangnick? Let's get to know the man with the help of our extensive archive storage. Rangnick was born and raised in a small town called Backnang. He played amateur football as a midfielder for Stuttgart's second team and a few regional sides while studying to become an English and sports teacher. At age 22, he got his coaching A license, and then at 25, he became player coach at his hometown club Viktoria Backnang and also coached a few more amateur sides. He got his first full-time job in football in '92 as youth coordinator for Stuttgart, winning the youth league, but he left just 2 years later when he wasn't considered for the vacant assistant coaching job. Another year passed until he got his first head coaching gig at third division side SSV Reutlingen and almost led them to promotion. But in an early sign of things to come, Rangnick showed he wants control and won't budge from his ideas. Quite possibly a good thing at Man United, but this my way or the highway attitude can cause trouble. After falling out with the hierarchy at Reutlingen, he moved to yet another struggling third division side in SSV Ulm. Here he is strolling through the city's Christmas market, tucking into a bratwurst in a roll paired with another dry roll. I guess nutritional know-how came into play a little bit later. In his second season, he gained promotion to the second division and then went on a 17-game unbeaten run there. His team played with an Italian-inspired back four, very unusual in Germany at the time, and they bucked another trend by not relying on man-marking.
Das Einzige, was es halt in Deutschland ist, dass diese komplette Raumdeckung keinerlei Tradition hat, weil noch nie irgendwann mal eine Vereinsmannschaft oder geschweige denn eine Nationalmannschaft über einen längeren Zeitraum es probiert hat.
Rangnick had laid the foundations of his footballing style at Ulm and also inspired a certain Thomas Tuchel, who was a player at the time but was soon forced into early retirement.
He guided us. He opened some really eyes for us, because we believed at that time in Germany that defenders run behind the strikers. So he showed us it's not necessary. We can defend in a zone. We can defend in a back four. So everything was brand new. From that moment, it changed how I watched football games on television. And he was very, very demanding and he made us overperform as a team.
Then Rangnick shot to national fame when he appeared on a German sports talk show to explain his modern style, earning him the nickname Professor.
Gut, zunächst mal zum Thema Viererkette. Die Viererkette ist für uns eigentlich nur ein Mittel zum Zweck, denn das, was wir eigentlich spielen wollen, ist extrem ausgeprägtes Pressing. Wir wollen versuchen, eigentlich immer den gegnerischen Ballbesitzer mit mindestens einem Mann Überzahl zu attackieren. Und da ist es einfach wichtig, dass die Spieler auch eine Grundordnung haben, wo sie wissen, dass jeder Spieler auch wirklich rückengedeckt ist.
Rangnick was now being linked with Bundesliga jobs, but he wasn't in a hurry to leave Ulm.
Ich habe Vertrag in Ulm bis 2000 ohne Ausstiegsklausel. Und an dieser Situation hat sich nichts geändert.
But something did change. Stuttgart came knocking, this time with the head coaching position. Results there didn't quite pan out, but Rangnick laid some of the foundations for the club's title win 6 years later, which was fueled by youth, signing Alexander Hleb, handing academy keeper Timo Hildebrand his debut, and ousting aging star player Krasimir Balakov in an effort to make the side younger. But he didn't get the control he wanted.
Ich habe schon auch als Trainer immer wieder die Erfahrung gemacht, ich war witzigerweise schon immer dann eigentlich am erfolgreichsten, wenn ich mehr war als nur der reine Trainer auf dem Platz, wenn ich mehr Ideen auch in den Verein einbringen konnte. Und das war natürlich bei Vereinen wie Ulm, wie Hannover, wie Hoffenheim nachhaltig, schnell, auch mit Erfolg versehen. Und bei dem einen oder anderen Verein, wie damals auch der VfB Stuttgart, da war es schwieriger.
More control at his next stop in Hanover again saw him completely overhaul the side's playing style, securing the club's first promotion in 10 years in his first season. A lot of recent reporting has focused on Rangnick's preference to field youthful sides, but here he relied on an aging Freddy Bobic to provide goals in the Bundesliga. He once again reportedly clashed with the club hierarchy, and following a poor run of results, he was sacked, much to the fans' annoyance. Shortly afterwards, he was asked to become new Germany coach Jürgen Klinsmann's assistant, but turned it down. That job went to Jogi Löw, and the rest is history. Instead, Rangnick got the job at Champions League side Schalke and was now playing for major titles.
Auch ich letztlich als Trainer habe auf so einen Verein gewartet, mit dem es einfach mal möglich ist, kontinuierlich vorne mitzuspielen, auch um die Meisterschaft letztlich mitspielen zu können. Und das ist für mich ein Anreiz, aber nicht etwas, was ich jetzt als Druck empfinde. Druck ist es, wenn du beispielsweise wie in Hannover im Prinzip jedes Spiel weißt, wenn wir heute verlieren, dann steht uns das Wasser nicht nur bis zur Unterlippe, sondern eigentlich schon fast bis zur Nase im Abstiegskampf. Und das ist für mich eigentlich viel mehr negativer Druck als das, was wir hier auf Schalke haben.
But negative pressure did soon arrive, with Schalke knocked out of the German Cup and Champions League by Christmas. And Rangnick was quickly frustrated by the media circus and the many interfering voices at this big club.
Ich habe keinen Bock mehr da drauf. Auf diese politischen Spielchen habe ich keinen Bock mehr drauf.
Amid rumours of a sacking in December, Rangnick unexpectedly revealed that he would be leaving by the end of the season. Fans were begging him to stay with banners in the stadium, but at the next home game he did something rather odd. Before kickoff, he took a sort of lap of honour, seemingly waving goodbye to the fans. He was fired 2 days later. It felt like Rangnick was only going to be happy when he had full control. He found that at 3rd Division Hoffenheim, with many people confused why he would take such a massive step down.
Die Frage, was will man in Deutschland denn überhaupt machen nach Schalke, hat dazu geführt, dass ich nach 4 Wochen reiflichen Überlegens mich für Hoffenheim entschieden habe. Schon noch mit einem gewissen Risiko behaftet. Und es gab natürlich auch den einen oder anderen, der nicht verstanden hat, warum ich jetzt direkt aus der Champions League und von einem Spitzenclub der Bundesliga in die 3. Liga wieder gegangen bin. Aber es war ganz einfach so, dass die Rahmenbedingungen so außergewöhnlich waren. Und wie gesagt, ein Projekt vor meiner Nase lag, das es bisher noch nie gegeben hat.
Hoffenheim were no normal 3rd Division side though. The tiny village had no tradition of footballing success nor infrastructure to speak of, but local billionaire Dietmar Hopp was financing an unlikely attempt to make it big, using a loophole in the 50+1 rule. Rangnick overhauled the entire club, got them their first ever promotion to the 2nd tier in his first year, and when we spoke to him back then, he made it clear he wanted more.
Wenn wir dann wirklich irgendwann in der 1. Liga angekommen sind, dann wird es neue Gespräche geben, auch zwischen Dietmar Hopp und mir, weil dann ist die entscheidende Frage, was wollen wir in Zukunft sein? Wollen wir nur ausschließlich Ausbildungsverein sein, wie es ja schon einige gab in den letzten Jahren, oder wollen wir mehr?
After back-to-back promotions, Rangnick managed to get them to the Bundesliga, having signed youngsters like Demba Ba, Gylfi Sigurdsson and Luis Gustavo from obscurity. He also laid the foundation for another successful coach in Julian Nagelsmann to eventually follow him. Hoffenheim were now top of the league halfway through their first ever Bundesliga campaign. But that talk he had foreshadowed about Hoffenheim's direction with Hopp did happen, and they didn't see eye to eye. The sale of midfielder Luis Gustavo to Bayern midway through their 3rd top-flight season prompted Rangnick to call it quits. Hopp wanted stability, Rangnick wanted more ambition. So, once again, he went to Schalke in search of success, maybe to prove the doubters wrong. He took over in March 2011, beat Inter Milan in the Champions League quarter-finals, and then faced off with Manchester United in the semis. He also won the German Cup, his first ever major title. He also had real star power for the first time, with Klaas-Jan Huntelaar at his peak and Real Madrid legend Raúl also still banging them in during a late career spell at Schalke. Sounds reminiscent of Ronaldo and Cavani at United right now. Now, back when Kickoff interviewed him during his first tenure at Schalke, he said something that would prove to be prophetic, stressing how important it was to find time away from football.
Sonst ist die Gefahr groß, dass sich die Gedanken wirklich nur 24 Stunden um den Fußball drehen und man irgendwann auch nachts davon träumt. Und da halte ich schon für wichtig, dass man sich immer wieder solche Freiräume auch selber schafft.
Desperate to succeed, perhaps Rangnick did not heed his own previous advice. Barely 2 months into his first full season back at Schalke, he suffered from burnout syndrome and unexpectedly quit the club. This time he had clashed with himself rather than the club hierarchy, so where to go from here? Rangnick was considered a visionary in football, but for one reason or another, things kept going wrong. After a 10-month break from football, he was unveiled in a new role as sporting director of Red Bull Salzburg in Austria, a club he had mentioned to us previously while at Hoffenheim.
Mit Red Bull Salzburg oder mit Chelsea. Wir haben mit diesen Vereinen absolut nichts am Hut und auch Dietmar Hopp nichts mit Abramovic oder Mateschitz. Aber der Hauptunterschied dieser Clubs gegenüber uns war, dass jeweils die dortigen Mäzene angefangen haben, einen Verein zu übernehmen in der jeweiligen ersten Liga und wir haben in der dritten Liga angefangen.
Not only was the aforementioned Mateschitz now Rangnick's boss, but in addition to his roles at Red Bull Salzburg, he would be overseeing newly founded RB Leipzig's development, tasked with replicating the success he had at leading Hoffenheim up the leagues. And when we met Rangnick a few years later at Leipzig, he took a much more pragmatic view of the whole Red Bull thing.
We cannot blame ourselves for only being 7 years old. So,
what does tradition in football mean to you?
if you only celebrate the ashes, nothing, to be honest.
Rangnick was fully in charge now. He was the hierarchy. He implemented a structure and a footballing style across the whole Red Bull football imperium, from the academy sides to the senior team. And he boiled down his management philosophy to 3 C's.
Kapital, ja, es ist hilfreich, wenn man auch nicht jeden Euro 3-mal umdrehen muss, bevor man ihn ausgibt. Konzept und Kompetenz, wenn die 3 Dinge zusammenkommen, dann kannst du egal wo Erfolg haben. Wenn nur eines oder 2 der Dinge da sind, wird es dann schon schwieriger.
United may have capital, but the other 2 C's, not so much. At Red Bull, he had been given free rein. In Salzburg, he hired coaches like Roger Schmidt, Adi Hütter and Jesse Marsch, all tasked with playing a high press, usually in a 4-2-2-2 formation. He oversaw signings of prospects including Naby Keita and Sadio Mané, as well as Joshua Kimmich and Timo Werner at Leipzig.
Das fängt an bei der Auswahl der Spieler, die wir schon auch an unserer Art, wie wir spielen wollen, ausrichten. Also wenn man so will, war bei uns eigentlich der Gedanke, wie wollen wir spielen, zuerst da und danach haben wir dann neue Spieler auch gescoutet.
So what exactly does Rangnick look for in a player? Judging by the variety of personnel he has worked with in the past, that answer may vary. But with Red Bull and Leipzig and Salzburg, he was done adapting. And there are some core values he looks for.
We need team players. We need players who don't, after scoring a goal, all of a sudden, the only thing they are interested in is doing that and celebrate themselves in front of the supporters. They should at least celebrate with the guy who gave the assist.
Ronaldo does like celebrating a little bit too much on his own, to be fair. Instead, Rangnick wants his players to press, calling the Gegenpress an added number 10 at times. He requires them to win the ball back and create chances within a limited space of time.
Also im Taktiktraining bei uns ist es eigentlich so, dass wir sehr viel in Rondos machen und fast immer auch mit Provokationsregeln, also mit irgendwelchen Kontaktbegrenzungen, mit Sonderpunkten, wenn du es schaffst, von einer Seite auf die andere den Ball zu transportieren. Wir haben eine sogenannte Countdown-Uhr bei uns erstellen lassen, eine Uhr, die es so nicht zu kaufen gibt normalerweise, die dann der Co-Trainer bedient. Wenn wir jetzt zum Beispiel diese 8-Sekunden-Regel, 8 Sekunden Zeit nach Ballverlust zur Rückeroberung, dann drückt er auf die Uhr, wenn der Ball verloren geht. Und dann hören die Spieler diese Uhr auch laut ticken und sie müssen dann innerhalb dieser 8 Sekunden den Ball erobern oder umgekehrt bei eigenem Ballbesitz, wenn wir den Ball haben, 10 Sekunden bis zum Abschluss. Das nervt dann ab und zu auch mal, wenn die Spieler noch nicht damit konfrontiert waren vorher, aber wir haben einfach auch gemerkt, dass dieser Trainingseffekt dann schon nach ein paar Wochen dazu führt, dass die Spielweise sich verändert, dass sie tatsächlich das dann bei ihnen in Fleisch und Blut übergeht und dass sie automatisch dann auch versuchen, schnell nach vorne zu spielen.
By the way, Rangnick was not just in a sporting director function at Leipzig. Leipzig was shooting up the leagues way ahead of schedule, and Rangnick took the coaching job in 2015, their second Bundesliga 2 season. After successfully gaining promotion, he handed the reins to Ralf Rangnick, but took over again 2 seasons later in 2018, plugging the gap until Nagelsmann's arrival. He led the side to a third-place finish in the Bundesliga and the German Cup final, losing to Bayern, and then moved back upstairs in the Red Bull footballing hierarchy again. Then, after 12 months away from the game, he announced that he would be founding his own consultancy firm, and his first stop would be Lokomotiv Moscow. But that didn't last long, did it? So, what can Manchester United expect from consultant Rangnick? First of all, a clear structure with Rangnick's aforementioned 3 Cs. United have always had capital, but since Fergie left, they haven't seemed competent and lacked a clear concept. His tendency to promote youth and create a clear academy structure should also appeal to Manchester United supporters. Previous coaches Mourinho and Van Gaal certainly had the tactical brains, but lacked charisma and positivity while they were there. Ole had the charms, but not the chops. It seems like Rangnick brings both. And if given the control and license to build from the bottom up, United might just have the success that they have lacked for so long. Whether that's on the sidelines or upstairs, and Rangnick has hinted he might be a coach for longer than you think. I reckon at least Rangnick will enjoy the English food. Thanks for joining me on this journey, and check out our other videos on German coaches, and of course, make sure to subscribe.